Before there was Twilight or Interview with a Vampire, there was one movie that started it all. Dracula 1931 with Bela Lugosi. Bela didn't just play a vampire, he defined one. Hey, let's take a look at how this graphic masterpiece forever changed horror cinema. Imagine it's 1931. You're sitting in a dark theater. The lights fade, and a man in a black cape steps out of the shadows, staring straight into your soul. That's Bela Lugosi's Dracula, and it terrified audiences like never before. This is a movie that created the vampire legend. No sound effects, no music, just pure haunting atmosphere. Today, we're diving deep into Dracula 1931, the film that defined horror forever. Up next on Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. And today we are sinking in our teeth into one of the most legendary films in horror history, Dracula 1931, on this Halloween day. Happy Halloween to everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe Halloween tonight. Trick or treat, parties, whatever you're doing. Hope you're having a good time and I hope you have a lot of fun because this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about this movie. It's one of the best movies ever made, and it's legendary. So whether you're a fan of Gothic chills, classic cinema, or just curious about where Hollywood's vampire obsession began, this review is the right one for you. So let me do this. Let me bring up the slides. Can't do it without the slides for Dracula. I want to show you what this film looked like. What a beautiful film it was, too. Gorgeous stuff. So here we go. Here's Dracula. Here's the slides here. We'll make it bigger for you. So, Dracula hit theaters in 1931. It didn't just scare audience. It defined the entire genre. And it was directed by Tom Browning and starred the now famous, very famous Bela Lugosi. This is the film that turned vampires from folklore into pop culture icons. And you can see the beautiful black and white, the beautiful scenery that they used for it. And I think the guy who played Renfield also does a great job in this film. We see him early on before he even meets the Count. So let me tell you a little bit about the story. The story follows Count Dracula, a centuries-old vampire from Transylvania. And basically, he travels to England to spread his curse after ensnaring Renfield, who we're seeing right here. And you will see in these next couple frames. Yes, look at that. That's so cool. The coolest thing about it is it's not just the acting with his voice and the language that Bela Lugosi does, but his movements, the angular movements with his hands and the way he presents himself. It's just fantastic, and it really makes the character extra scary and extra creepy. But yeah, Dracula and his wives getting out of the coffin. There's our first look at him as Dracula. He also played him on stage, by the way. And here's him in the coach. And then here's the magnificent entryway, which all these films had this cool entryway to all these castles. You see it in Frankenstein, you see it in Dracula, you see it in several other horror films from the 1930s. And that's what made these movies great, is all the scenery. And guess what? Yes, I'm a Texan. It's odd they had these in there, but they got armadillos in there too. And they had possums. I didn't show the possums, but I had to show the armadillos because I'm from Texas and we have armadillos all over our state. Anyway, here's Dracula with one of his famous lines: "The children of the night, what music they make." Who could forget that? That is just such an awesome line. And Bella just delivers it so wonderfully. Yep, right here. And then, that spider web where Dracula just walks right through it, and then Renfield has to use his cane. The spider web to catch many flies, which is just so cool. And then we see him getting into a trance right here. I never drink wine. And of course, when Renfield cuts himself, that draws him closer to it. Then Renfield goes in for the night, and the lady vamps want at him. Dracula says no, and Dracula takes his first victim. All right, so he ensnares Renfield, just like we're showing here. Dracula wakes up, takes up residence in Carfax Abbey, and soon sets his sights on the loving Mina Seward. It's up to Professor Van Helsing to uncover the Dracula's dark secret and put an end to his reign of terror. So, just fantastic stuff here. So you see Dracula on the boat. They actually did a movie about that. I don't know if it was any good from last year. I don't think it was, but kind of cool. And then you see him first in London, and he has his first victim. And honestly, this is interesting because it's almost Jack the Ripper-esque right here. This scene almost makes you think of that. And really, this movie was made 40 years after Jack the Ripper, so it was still fresh on people's minds. So yeah, that scene probably freaked a lot of people out. And here you see at the performance. The other time we get music in this, aside from the opening credits, and Dracula introduces himself to his neighbors. You got Mina and Lucy there. Lucy's kind of fond of him. But the bat comes in, and Lucy doesn't last long. And you see, look at this. This is part of the performance. This is what defines the character. And this is why Bela Lugosi is one of the greatest actors, horror actors of all time. I think Boris Karloff is a little bit better, but they're like 1A and 1B to me. But look at the way he puts his hands, and he angles himself and leans in. That just gives an extra scary element to the role. And they don't even have to show him biting anybody or fangs or anything like that. He can scare you with just his looks, which is awesome. Just fantastic. What I love about this film. And then, of course, Renfield's a crazed lunatic, and you see that on his face. So see this picture? He doesn't have to just say it with his words. He can say it with his face. You see how his hair's back, his eyes are lit up, and his mouth. And I think this is a lost art we have in acting. We need more action-oriented to where you don't have to say everything to show you what's going on. Real acting is to be able to do it with movements as well as words. And that's awesome. And that's what I love about this. And then there's Van Helsing discovering that it's a vampire. Van Helsing confronting Renfield here. And then Dracula waking up in his new Carfax Abbey. And, Bela Lugosi's portrayal of Count Dracula is the stuff of legend, as we mentioned. He's originally from Hungary, and that thick Hungarian accent, the deliberate speech, and his piercing stare, yes, the stare that we just mentioned, became the blueprint for how audiences expected vampires to sound and act, which is really cool. Helen Chambers as Mina, Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing, and he does a great job as Van Helsing, and Dwight Fry as Renfield. Each brought unforgettable performances that defined early horror. So I think Dwight Fry and Bela Lugosi are the two standouts in this. Edward Van Sloan is really great as Van Helsing. Helen Chambers does a good job as Mina. She has some good moments where she kind of stares too as she's becoming a vampire, but it's really, really cool. I think some of the performances in the movie are just fantastic and outstanding. And I long for more movies to get back to something like this, where you have a focus on not only the words, but the performance, and maybe less on the special effects and more on the actual acting and the way the actor portrays the character. But we have, Van Helsing again with Renfield. And there's that great stare that we mentioned. Look at that. I mean, just with the face. Look at how he's able to, he's able to stare into your soul. But if you look, he shifts his eyebrows. He has that stare. It's a good close up on his face. And it's scary, terrifying. And it creates character. Like, he doesn't, in this movie, he's manipulating people and he's communicating to them telepathically, but you don't have to hear him say any words to them. You have him give that facial expression, which is so great, and then let the other actor play off of that, which is fantastic. That's what it is. That's what I love about this. Good old fashioned, acting and acting classes and just bringing it, which is great. And then here's the other angular, another attack where it doesn't have to show his teeth or anything like that. Look at that. I mean, just the way he does his hands and he kind of leans in. That's perfect. And that defined a vampire role right there. Of course, we got Mina, who'd been bitten once, being consoled by her fiance and Van Helsing. And then Dracula comes as kind of a concerned neighbor, only to try and manipulate her again. And we see that, lo and behold, the vampire has no reflection, which is pretty cool. I thought this was a really cool scene, really well done. Practical effects from back then. And then, of course, Van Helsing confronts Dracula with the mirror, and you get this great shot. Boom! He knocks it out of his hands. This is before they really discover that he's a vampire, and he apologizes, and it's just a great scene. So you get kind of the different elements of the vampire lore here. They don't have a reflection. They don't like wolfbane. They definitely don't like crosses. They definitely have to be in during the daytime. And finally, you have to put a stake through the heart to put an end to them. So kind of interesting and kind of cool. And it set the stage for everything else to come. All right, so more of him recovering. I mean, Bela Lugosi is just fantastic. Look at that. And then they're talking about him being a vampire. They talk again to Renfield about it. And then Mina the next day here. So a couple of facts about this as we go along and look at some of these slides. So guess when this came out in 1931? You would think that it would come out for Halloween and Halloween horrors, but no. This comes out on another holiday. Guess what holiday it was? Yeah, that's right. The horror holiday of Valentine's Day. Yes, February 14th, 1931, a spooky Valentine's Day release. Can you believe that? They released this on Valentine's Day? What? Are you kidding? Huh. I guess you could say, "Hi, honey, let's go to a scary movie." I mean, you might get your kicks that way, but it's interesting. So they adopted this from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, which is fantastic. If you get a chance to read it, it's great, and it still lasts after 100 years. And also, there was a stage play in 1924, which Bela Lugosi was also in at one point. The film has almost no music, using silence to build tension, and boy, does it ever! It's great. I love it. Bela Lugosi's cape became so iconic, he was buried in it. Can you believe that? Bela was buried in his Dracula cape. How cool is that? Yeah, I can't believe that he was buried in it. More scenes here with Renfield, and then the famous confrontation between Dracula and Van Helsing. And you see where Dracula here tries to manipulate Van Helsing, but Van Helsing, your will is strong. And then Van Helsing has another trick up his sleeve showing him the cross, which is awesome. And then we get back to Mina. And just so you know, the Spanish language version was also filmed at night on the same sets. And that one's rather interesting. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but I've seen parts of it. The sets reused props from The Phantom of the Opera, which was filmed in 1925, another classic horror. Dracula launched Universal's Monster Universe, paving the way for Frankenstein and the Mummy, which are two great movies, and also The Wolfman. So Mina's starting to become more of a vampire. She tries to manipulate Jonathan at this point to get him to get the cross away from Van Helsing and hide it. And you see her eyes. I mean, she's She's trying to manipulate, and you just see her eyes in her face. She doesn't have to say anything. That's acting. That's brilliant acting. That's what I love. That's what we need more of. And you see her turn away when she sees the cross. And then you have Dracula continuing to manipulate her. And finally, he gets her in her clutches, and he's going to take her to the Abbey. So let's talk about the legacy as we get to these last couple scenes of the movie. So Dracula didn't just start a trend. It started a mythology. Lugosi's influence can be seen in everything from Interview with a Vampire to Hotel Transylvania. Yeah, really true. The Gothic visuals, the lighting, and the eerie tone remain the foundation of modern horror. Absolutely 100%. And then, we see him. He's got her, and then Renfield shows up, and he had led Harker and Van Helsing. And so the Dracula and her confront him on the stairwell, which is so cool. I mean, look at the set. I mean, I love that. And especially black and white gives it an eerie feel and makes it pop. I love it. It's great. And then Renfield meets his end. And then we discover that Dracula didn't have enough time to bite Mina for the final time and kill her, but they discover his coffin, and there he is. Van Helsing does the honors, and Mina is saved. And that is the end of the movie, which is it's just such a fantastic movie. I love this movie. And it's not that long. It's just an hour and about 14 and a half minutes. So really easily watchable, and one that you can put in with some of these other classic horror movies, which are not long at all as well. You can watch a bunch of them all back to back in a row in the same time you will watch a modern day movie, which is great. But anyway, let's remove the screens here, and we'll get a couple of final thoughts on Dracula here. So should you watch the 1931 Dracula today? Absolutely, no question about it, especially today, Halloween. Yes. It's more than just a classic. It's a haunting piece of movie history. The atmosphere, the performances, and its influence make it a must-see for fans of timeless horror. So that's it for Dracula. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. When it comes to horror, the classics never die. I'll see you in the next one. If you can't let you leave. So what's your favorite version of Dracula? Do you like this one? Do you like Christopher Lee's version? Do you like another version? Did you like Dracula 1992, which was Bram Stoker's Dracula? Tell me in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this trip back to 1931. Make sure to like, subscribe, and join me for more horror classics when we get to another horror week on Halloween. The shadows fade, but legends never do. Until next time, happy Halloween. Hope you guys have a fun, safe one, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.